Hello and welcome to the Wednesday check-in presented by the Gokhstein News Network. I'm your host, Landy, and today is August 20th, 2025. And we have, Bitcoin essentially hitting some of the downside target areas that were talked about on Monday and getting a little bit of relief in the daily candle for the Wednesday session. Well, we'll see kind of as we go along here. We'll see and define some conditions for what the bulls are looking for and what the bears are looking for. But I did want to discuss a few things because this week is a pretty important week in markets. We had FOMC meetings, and then we have Jackson Hole, where the Fed chair will speak. So, there was some news that came out today that was essentially saying, like, they're trying to balance, the inflation and employment, and that inflation is kind of taking the priority over employment, thus kind of creating the sentiment that there might not be cuts, right? Now, I would push back on that a little bit because some of the initial reaction to the FOMC minutes today might be a little hyperbolic. And we really have to look to Friday to kind of see what it is exactly that they are looking for in order to do cuts. Now, we know that some of the plan was already to cut sometime in Q3, maybe end of Q3 into Q4. So I still generally believe that is something that they will consider doing. And also, I don't think it matters right now. They've got a lot of cash. We've seen and another big thing that was fairly recent that we're seeing a lot of people make a big deal about is the reverse repo, falling very, very substantially, very quickly. And this is really, this is players finding better yield elsewhere. And that's, it's not it's not indicative of a problem in the system as of yet that we know of. And, I think that's one of the reasons why they feel like, if we're going to cut, then we're going to free up a bunch more liquidity. And that's where, we might see goosed inflation, right? So that's kind of where I believe the discussion is likely going to lead on Friday as well. But we'll have to wait and see. And realistically, the market's just chugging along in TradFi, a little lower term time frame volatility. Even in Bitcoin, we saw a little bit lower term time frame volatility as well, but still closed a green candle. Let's jump right into the daily here and kind of see where things are headed. And we can see that obviously it's a downtrend. And now we do have a support level right below there, that 112. Obviously, we've already seen that area hit, and just below it, we see the lower second standard deviation for volatility metrics here for the Bollinger Bands, and that's coming in the low $111,000 region, just shy of 111,400. So it is a viable downside target still, and even below there, if we do see price dip in there and especially break below on daily closes, if we haven't already tested down further into some of the daily levels of interest, somewhere around that 110 to 111 area, I would be looking for any kind of break back into the 112 region to start testing that, and possibly even down lower by this daily lower third standard deviation, where we have the last big weekly higher high close, in comparison, of course, to the one that we currently have, but the previous weekly high close at 109. Anywhere below there, I'd be looking for expansion into this very key zone where the move to new highs originated from, after making the 112 high over here and then selling off a bit down towards 101 on the close, and that 98 270. Well, in this case, this 108 region would be very, very important. Swings of it would be fine. But again, this is going to be all predicated on watching some of the lower term timeframes and then seeing if we get closes inside of 112. That would start to increase the chances that we're going to fill out some of this area of demand. And then if demand does falter in that area, then start looking lower. And anywhere below there, we're probably going to get a wider move for a correction. Now, we did see a test back up to that 114,750 low area, right around where the low before the low wick of the candle before the breakdown, to start running the mid to low 112 area, get tested in lower term timeframes. If that is regained, look right back to 115.7, and that any kind of a daily reclaim of this area, we can start looking in the mid 116s up to somewhere around the 117.8 to 118 area. Now, we do have this swing lower high up here at right around, what is this, 118,650 or so. We would need to see a break of that on the daily in order to break the downtrend. And then we can start looking at potential for, however high it goes, wherever that high is put in, for a higher low equal low structure and a trend changing structure or trend shifting structure from there. And so far, it is still downside angled. Still, the setup still does favor the bears at this particular moment, but watch those lower term timeframes for any reclaims of 114,750, and then any daily reclaims of 115,700. Bulls would still have a lot of work to do, because it's essentially, the zone is, some people will say 116 to 118. I have it specifically at 115.7 to right around that 117.8, 118 area. That is the zone, and that would be a bearish retest zone, and the bulls need to clear it and then take out that lower high swing if they really want the edge to be on their side from here at this particular moment. If we check some lower term time frames, like the 12-hour, we did get some expansion down, but Bitcoin's been riding the lower second bands down here. You can see the lower second is opening up the opportunity for a swipe right down to 112 again, and any break below, of course, starting to fill out that area between 112 and 109. But if we do see, of course, a reclaim of right where the lower first is, just slightly above that 114,750 area, then I would start to entertain a move back into that zone at 115.7 to that 117.8, 118 area by the basis on the 12-hour. And again, it's right around the same area for the 12-hour for a trend breaking structure, and the potential for a trend reversal structure, like a higher low or equal low to be put in. Need to see closes again above 118,650 or so. Now, when looking at momentum, this is something I did find interesting. We hit a pretty low level for a regular Stoke. This is not a Stoke RSI. Stoke RSI is the velocity of RSI, so it's kind of an indicator of an indicator. We can just go and reference RSI if we want to really know the relative strength. In this case, this is close over close price momentum. And it's, the biggest moves typically happen when we're in the oversold and overbought areas. So overbought up top, oversold down bottom. And this zone in particular was hit, the last time. It's gotten close a few times, like back here in August. We remember what was going on in the summer last year. This was actually very close. This was that $49,000 low. This is very close to the read that we are just coming in off of now. But realistically, it doesn't mean anything outside of being a counter trend signal. But it is something to watch if we start to see that swing high taken out at the 118,650, and then the bulls could very easily run, in my personal opinion, the 119, 120, and realistically closing above 121, the bears lose their edge by quite a lot, at least back towards the highs. But the last time that we actually hit this was coming out of the bear market lows. And it was, now, of course, this was a structure that went on forever, it seemed. Nice little drawdown after the sell-off to just under $20,000 here after coming out of the bear market lows. The last time that we really saw this area breached was when we saw, price in the bear market and coming out of the bear market, and it got close a few times, but they all turned into major lows, like the $49,000 area. We had the 38.5 area over here, which is a big monthly zone right at a 618. And, it's just something that is worth noting only because it is showing counter trend signals on the 12-hour. And it's something to pay attention to if conditions are met, and that is a downtrend break. Well, first a recovery of the low of the range up here, or the low side of the range, and then a downtrend break, and then a trend reversal setup like a higher lower equal low. Then it becomes more actionable, but it's starting to give off some signals that if price stays above this, or even in the 112 to 109 level, that prior weekly higher high close and swing, then the bulls could potentially take control and at least start to work this topside range again. And so far, we do have a lower low set now on the 12-hour. And if we're going to see this result in anything on the daily, of course, all the same areas, something to pay attention to is also, we're getting down towards, on this next closure, right around where we were in terms of stoch momentum on that 112 low. And what is it going to take to reverse this, which doesn't mean much until we see a trend break and then a trend reversal setup, would be closes back above around 117.7, which would put Bitcoin essentially right at the top side of the this little support area at 115.7 to 117.8 to 118, which also means that if we did see like a counter trend signal start to fire off, but price doesn't break the downtrend here, specifically on a close. I don't like to just see swings. And when I'm talking about breaks, I'm talking about closes. Then this would be a bearish retest of the zone that was just lost. So just be aware of that, even if we do see some pops back to the upside here. Now, Friday, I'll cover the weekly, but let's look at Ethereum real quick on the daily. Ethereum is approaching its 4,400 level, or in this case, to be very specific, the 4,384 level. This is going to be a big one. Nice bounce off of the basis band thus far. And I will say that if this bounce doesn't continue and start to hit the 4,550 to take out or make a run for this 4,577, 4,600 area up top, then I would be looking for the possibility of 4K, somewhere around the 888 fib here to that 3930, anywhere below there, and I'd be looking back to a daily zone. This is a daily zone around the 3750 to 3635 here. Somewhere around that lower first standard deviation. Otherwise, if the bulls can pull off a setting a low, especially above around 4,400, then I would be looking to 4,500, 4,600, and start looking back to the top side structure here. This is open and available, especially on closes from a volatility perspective above the upper first, which is right around 4,520. So again, kind of right in that pocket. Any kind of closes back above 4,600, this 4,630 area, the higher high up here could get ran, and potentially maybe we see a swing of the all-time high. I would be cautious if it did start to do that. I'd be looking for more consolidation over time because the bands are still pretty extended, and when we go from compression to expansion and then we start moving back towards, an upper first, upper second zone, those typically are going to be at least at minimum lower term time frame rejections and usually daily rejections. And then we look for the next volatility squeeze for the actual volatile, the volatility expansion and direction from there. Obviously, even to the downside, if it's the same when moving from compression to expansion, even to the downside, lower first, lower second, which is right at a 786 right now on the daily, are going to be, generally seen as areas of support, especially when they're confluent with areas of support and resistance. So areas of support in terms of volatility, and then also areas of support in confluence with the actual support and resistance levels of interest. So nothing too crazy here. Curious. I'd be very aware of bearish rejects up here on any kind of even swing higher highs or closing higher highs 45.84 would turn momentum back to the upside, and it would be a bullish reset in the context of the bullish control zone. I think that ETH's setup is a little bit more bullish. 12 hours ready to turn. 41.69. Nice would be the number to beat there to actually get this fully turned back up. But again, it's a counter trend signal, and we need to see this this lower high taken out at 45.77. Let's take a look at Sol real quick. Sol, same kind of deal. Did dip out of the zone here a little bit here in the lower term time frames, and even got a close out. A nice close open under the basis band. Needs to recover the 190 to 192 to try and break the downtrend here on the daily at 195, 196. So closes above 196. We could look back to the most recent high here, which was a swing higher high, but a closing lower high. And in this case, you know, I'd be looking back there. Now, of course, we hit the 209, 210 target up here, but you know, it is expanded bands, kind of a range look. I need to see some compression for like an actual, like real move to get rolling here. And not to say that it can't just blast off through and go into another expansion, but I'd like to see some more compression, to be quite honest. To the downside, if it does drop the basis here, right at around that 180, I'd be looking right back to the 175 to 173.5 low side area of interest. Anywhere below there, I'm looking to right down below, you know, 170 and below this 168 by the lower first to the 165, 66 area. This is a zone of interest down here between 160 and right around 166. So that would be kind of the initial moves. I think that should be good for kind of describing what my take is so far midweek, and I'll follow up with you all on Friday, and we can kind of evaluate how price reacted to Chairman Powell's speech, and yeah, any kind of updates or anything like that you think I should post to the timeline. You can always tag me in down below or post down below after this is up, and let me know if you'd like me to cover any of it, if you feel that it's relevant or helpful. And yeah, go ahead and like and share and all that good stuff, all the social media stuff. And I want to wish you a wonderful morning, afternoon, and evening, no matter where you are in the world. Please trade safe. And of course, as always, and above all, stay safe. And yeah, I'll talk to you again on Friday. Take care. Landy out.